We have an absolutely massive week ahead of us. We have Powell testifying in front of the Senate Bank Committee. We also have the inflation report, CPI and PPI, coming our way, which, following the jobs report that we got last week, is going to be absolutely enormous for us for what we're looking at in terms of market catalysts. The S&P could go to new all-time highs or could tumble back down. We're at that sort of point in time right now, up a little bit in the pre-market. We also have to take a look at the Qs, which we have NVIDIA earnings coming up at the end of this month, which from today's date is a little bit over 2 weeks away. It's actually, I believe, 2 weeks away from Wednesday. So we're going to have to take a look at that as well. And then we'll also take a look at IWM. Again, in a precarious position. Bitcoin, trying to decide, is it going to rally to new all-time highs as well, like the S&P has the potential to do so, or is it also going to fall down through the floor? We're going to have to look and see at the technicals, and we'll track them as they progress. So let me pop up the SPY here, and we'll see what I'm seeing, and I'll share that with you. So what we got going on with the S&P, we got Powell testimony, Powell testimony coming up Tuesday, Wednesday this week, Wednesday CPI as well, and then Thursday PPI. That's the big stuff that we're looking for in terms of economic catalysts coming our way, along with earnings that can also come on top of that. So with the SPY, we actually closed up above the 50-day. You can see the peaks coming down. You can see the bottoms coming up. It's a bit of a consolidation for us. Still in bullish territory overall. The number, I'm going to keep on saying it every day until it happens, 609.83 is that number to beat for the S&P 500. Subdued inflation and also good testimony coming out from Powell about if he comes off as rather dovish and unconcerned, could be very good for us for what exactly we see moving forward. We still have pressure from tariffs to pay attention to, as that can be inflationary in and of itself, that we could watch those pressures come along. And so if we hear Powell signal that higher inflation is coming our way, it's probably going to be a further pause, not going to really budge on monetary policy easing. That is all going to be difficult for moving the markets upward. So we do want to watch for that. We want to listen for that. But what we can see here, 609.83, that's the number to beat. Until we beat that number, the rest of this is just kind of noise, in my opinion. If we get on top of that, that's where that real bullishness comes in. We're up above the 50-day, the 200-day, and also the 20-day. So being up above all those, definitely in bullish territory, with the RSI pretty much perfect for a fresh rally if we get it. Now, also something to pay attention to is the rising wedge pattern that we happen to be in, that should we actually fall down out of it and get confirmation, that is something that can sell off for us, and then we can head back down. We should look for 581 to 586 and the 200-day, which is currently at about 564. So that's what to look at for that. We want to listen for Powell. We're looking for those all-time highs. As we're currently sitting in that bullish territory, we can get rapid drawdowns, but we are in a minor consolidation period right now with the S&P, with a bit of a bullish bias on the back of it. So that's a good thing. So moving over to the Qs, what we see on there is this trend line going across the top. And once again, you see the bottoms coming up. Consolidation once again for QQQ, tracking the NASDAQ 100. And so we need to get on top of this trend line, not necessarily the same hard peak that we saw with the S&P at 609.83, but getting up on top of this trend line could give us the green light to retest all-time highs for this at about 538, 539. It's actually 539.15. That could allow us to push onto 550, or even more importantly, up above that, closer to 559. So keep in mind, same thing for, like I said, for SPY, tracking the S&P 500. As for QQQ, tracking the NASDAQ 100, we're up above the 200, the 50, and the 20. All of that is very bullish, with the RSI sitting in very healthy territory for a rip to the upside. We want to watch for that. IWM, trapped in between the 20-day and the 50-day, and, well, still up above the 200, bullish. The RSI just barely below 50, so a little bit of bearish momentum there. It is still salvageable, though, especially with us having this price increase in the pre-market hours. We really need to get that full candle close up on top of the 50, and it looked like we almost had it on February the 6th, and then we just closed right down below it, and we also got rejected on Friday the 7th, and so today's that next day. Need to get up on top of that. We want low inflation. We want signs of easy monetary policy, continued economic strength, and also a stable labor market. All of those things are really, really, really going to be the four prongs that I see to having a lot of upside coming for us in the near future for IWM. Any one of those things failing can be a little bit more difficult for putting in that new all-time high, going back to what we saw this last time on November the 25th, when we hit almost $245 per share on IWM, tracking the Russell 2000 stocks. Now, let's jump over to Bitcoin to see what's going on here. Now, right now, we have a bit of a double peak. just like 609.83, and I keep saying it here as well, 107.892. We need to break up above that. If we do, it's wildly bullish. Easy monetary policy is going to help us out. Further news from Trump or the Trump administration about Bitcoin, and don't forget about the Bitcoin strategic reserve that could come with the U.S. Sovereign Wealth Fund. The date I heard so far could be by June. We're going to have to watch and see. Take that with a grain of salt, if you will. But this is likely not going to be the end for Bitcoin. Not going to be the top for Bitcoin. The question of is when, like how long do we have to wait for that to happen? Are we going to have the double top and then we're going to have a lot of pain? Right now we're above the 200. That's overall bullish. We're down below the 50 and the 20 with a potential death cross coming. That's kind of bearish. We're holding up support at 95, bullish. This massive support, we're still up above this trend line from the peaks and then the support. So resistance back in 2021 and then support in 2024 into 2025. We keep on getting a lot of buying pressure down below 95,000, coming in right around 90,000 to 95,000, where you see that buying pressure and then rallying every time we get up on top of that and hold on to it as support. So we got to get back up on top of the 50 and the 20. Monetary policy is going to be huge for us, especially if it's easing monetary policy. Subdued inflation is also going to make that better. Word from the Trump administration coming out about positive crypto news, about strategic reserve, about sovereign wealth fund, which is likely in that vehicle where we're going to be able to see that strategic reserve come to fruition. All those things can be very, very bullish for Bitcoin. If we break through this support, I have it labeled on here for you. Massive if broken, probably not stopping at 85, probably stopping down close to the 200-day, at least at first around 79,000. So we are sitting in bullish territory with some near-term concerns going on for Bitcoin that we got to get up on top of the 50. We fell down below it. Maybe we'll retest it today. We have to watch and see what happens around that. If we retest and get rejected, watch for the 95 and watch for this trend line. Breaking down below those, retesting them as resistance is massive for seeing a further drop. Sitting on top of 107.982 is that sign that we're looking for that massive rally. Over to XRP, I talked about this buying zone that you see in here, and that buying zone is right at around 233, and you can see all the buying pressure that we got when we dipped down below $2 on Monday, February the 3rd, and then you can see we dipped back down into this area so far, finding a lot of sideways trading in here, a lot of indecisiveness. As a matter of fact, this candle going back to Sunday went down as low as 231 and then popped up as high as to about almost 251. There's some decimal places beyond the hundredths place there to pay attention to. We're just watching to see which way we're going to break on this. It'd be nice to have that Bitcoin support with it. ETF news for XRP is going to be huge. Anything that supports further Bitcoin buying, upward pressure for Bitcoin, that's going to be the rising tide that lifts all the ships. And XRP is certainly in that ship, and we want to see that upward pressure. Certainly staying up above these trend lines. We're still very much in bullish territory, being up above the 200, with some near-term concerns being down below the 50 and the 20. So we got, like I said, a big week coming up. We want to hear from the Powell testimony. Does he, with this testimony under the Trump administration, does he come off as being a little bit more hem-haw and a little bit more dovish? Is he going to put on that there's pressures on him to cut the federal funds rate despite what we're seeing for inflation right now? Is he going to talk inflation down a little bit, which would be pretty smart of him? So if we see signs of subdued inflation from CPI, from PPI, if we hear Tuesday and Wednesday from Powell's testimony that there's less to be concerned about, even if that's just the words that he puts out, those things are going to be bullish for the markets. So we definitely want to pay attention to subdued inflation or signs of subdued inflation coming through Jerome Powell himself, is that we want to at least hear about it. And then we also want to watch and see, at least for December 2025, if you're looking at the CME Fed Watch tool, if you haven't, you should look at December for this year at the end, that longer tail, if you will, for how many rate cuts are coming our way this year. That's going to be more indicative of what we see in terms of like the Russell 2000, for example, or the risk on assets like we would have in crypto. That includes Bitcoin, that includes XRP, that the easier monetary policy we see, the less pressure we have from that side of things. The more subdued inflation we have, that's also good for those risk assets. The stronger our labor market stays, also good for risk assets. And then, of course, GDP is that other fourth thing. I'm going to keep on talking about those four things because right now I really do believe that they're the things holding the market back right now and keeping it from really making up its mind in a single direction at the moment. Why we see consolidation with the S&P, why we see consolidation with the Qs, why IWM keeps on underperforming and staying down below its 50 instead of breaking up above its 50, why Bitcoin won't move, and also XRP kind of having a rough spot right now. We want to know that it's game on, rally on, and right now we're just not seeing that confirmation. But trust me, when we get confirmation one way or the other, we're likely going to have a fairly quick move. So be ready for it. Watch the technicals, come back to this channel, subscribe so you can see my videos come out. If you want to support my channel, I got a link for the Patreon down in the description. You can see my technicals over at the Discord, available through that Patreon. Also my buys and sells. You can talk to me and my community members. The link's in the description. Also, if you learn to do technical analysis like I do and learn to get access to the bread recipe trading strategy, which is developed by Stockmo. You can find the link for Stockmo Academy down in the description. You should check that out. It's a trading strategy that I use myself for finding out when stocks are either going to take off or fall, and that also includes crypto as well. You can use technical analysis and the bread recipe trading strategy on that. And that course walks you exactly how to do it, exactly how to set it up, and involves a learning community as well that can support you through the process. And then there's tons of testimonials coming out all the time about people paying for that course in as little as one trade, vouching for the legitimacy of the bread recipe trading strategy. You guys can check it out. You can get the course cheaper by using the code word DOCTOR, DOCTOR. That link is also down in the descriptions, my friends. I will see you in the next video.